Welcome to Empowering Homeschool Conversations, your authority in navigating the world of homeschooling diverse learners. Featuring Peggy Ployhar from SPED Homeschool, Annie Yorty from AnnieYorty.com, Leilani Melendez from Living with Eve, Stephanie Buckwalter from eLARP Learning, and Dawn Jackson from Dawn Jackson Educational Consulting and Tutoring. With over 75 years of combined homeschooling expertise, experiences, and perspectives, this group is eager to share their wealth of wisdom to empower your homeschooling journey. So grab your favorite mug, settle in, and get ready for insightful discussions, valuable insights, and practical tips. Give your homeschool the power boost it needs to successfully educate the unique learners in your home.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Empowering Homeschool Conversations. Today, we are going to talk about passion-led learning, empowering school success through coaching. And my guest today is Uzma Akser, an ACC ICF executive and leadership coach and consultant, a certified Autism Specialist, a Neuroinclusion Advocate, an international guest speaker, and the founder of Uzma Akser Coaching and Consulting and Motherhood on the Spectrum. Welcome to the show today. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much.
So
I'm equally excited.
Yeah, we met in person in England this summer, and I got to meet actually Uzma's son, and that was a delight as well. And actually speak on a panel with him. And so we hit it off, and I said, you got to be on the show. She has a wealth of information to share, and you're just going to be blessed by this conversation. Today, we're going to talk some main themes about integrating passions into learning, coaching into home education, and supporting unique learners. And also just talking about Uzma's own personal journey as a homeschool mom, from advocating for her own child to founding a company based on neurodiversity coaching. And so definitely join us for this conversation. And if you are watching live, we would love for you to join in with us. So put comments, questions in the feed, whether you're watching from Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Those are all places that you should be watching from right now. So, so let's kind of kick off this conversation a little bit. You know, a lot of parents say they want to transform passions into learning opportunities, and you mentioned transforming when we chatted and shared some information of transforming your son's passions for technology into learning opportunities. Could you share a specific example of how you've incorporated his love for tech and machines into an educational activity?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do that. I mean, I feel it just happened organically. It started when he was under 2 years old, actually. He loved vacuum cleaners. It all
Wow.
started with love of vacuum cleaners. Yeah, he was playing with one, and he would spend the whole day playing with this one particular vacuum cleaner. And as a first child, you want to give them everything, right? And then I
Right.
went and bought another one, and then another one, and then another one, and he ended up
Oh
having
my
5 or
goodness.
6 different ones. He had a Dyson, he had a Henry the Hoover, he had one from Toys R Us, Early Learning Center, you name it. And every time
Yeah.
he would play with them, he wouldn't play the typical way, right? The kids play, during like cleaning the living room or cleaning the floor.
Right.
He would actually open up the vacuum cleaner,
Huh.
the bottom of the base, and take out the parts from the toy vacuum cleaner. And I wouldn't see him
Ah,
panicking, right? I wouldn't see him panicking. He would
right.
be,
Yeah.
they'll half fix it. They'll half fix it. And he would put it back together again and then do the same thing
Hmm.
again. So he would spend the whole day opening and closing the vacuum cleaners. He would switch on my vacuum cleaner for the sound, and
Hmm.
he would sit watching, YouTube. So he had this
Wow.
fascination with vacuum cleaners.
Yeah.
And initially I thought, okay, it's good. He's playing, he's entertained, it's okay. And then it kind of went on and on. And I
Mm,
realized, maybe this is an obsession and I should put it away. So I did.
right.
I ended up putting his vacuum cleaners away. And something didn't feel right as a mum. by me doing that.
Mm,
I felt like he's not happy anymore. He was really entertained. He was enjoying himself. He was busy. He was learning. And here's me
right.
now putting these vacuum cleaners away and giving him something else to play with. And
Mm,
then I started researching and trying to understand why my child was fixed on one particular toy or object.
right.
And then it came up as, certain interests, and then the word autism came up, and I had
Mm,
never heard of autism actually. This is going back, 13 years now.
yeah.
And I then did take out the vacuum cleaners because I thought it was the wrong thing for me to do as mum. And I'm so glad
Uh-huh.
I did, because if I
Yeah.
hadn't, we wouldn't have the story. And
Yeah.
I took out the vacuum cleaners and he started playing them again. And it just went on from vacuum cleaners to him going into a shop, listening to various sounds of machinery,
Mm,
going into a restaurant, for example, looking at the till, anything to do with gadgets and devices. He was intrigued and fascinated, and he wanted to see how they would operate. So this is how he's working. And then as
mm,
time went on, it went into, technology. It was, you know, laptops and iPads and the phone and a PC. So when he was 10, he said to me,
they always seem to grow, don't they? They in the ways you never expect them to grow out of that.
exactly, exactly. So when he was 10, he said to me, Mama, I want to build my own PC. And I looked at him like, really? You want to
Wow.
build your own PC? It's a pretty expensive
Uh-huh.
activity that you want to do. So I explained to him, yeah, you can. If you really want to, you can, because he would talk about PCs a lot. And I said, okay, you can,
Ah,
but show me, show me what you need, show me how to, um,
right.
and then we'll save up for it. Let's save up for it. What do you earn the
Mhm.
money? You can do chores, extra chores. Chores he does without getting paid. Extra chores, and
Yeah.
then you'll get paid, and you can save, and you can buy your parts that you need for the PC. So he started
Right.
researching, and I decided, I mean, we were already homeschooling, but what I decided
Mhm.
then is turn this passion that he had into learning.
Mm,
So maths was not his like favorite subject.
right.
Writing was not the most interesting thing he would like to do on a daily basis. So what I asked him to
Mhm.
do was, okay, why don't you now, more like a unit study, why don't you create your learning around this? So we introduced, numeracy, literacy, research,
Yeah.
various skills within this interest.
Mm,
And through
mhm.
that, he researched. He found out the names that the parts of the items that go into the PC. He researched
Right.
the cost, the price, the total amount. We went
Mhm.
to the mall. He went to the shop assistant, asked for those particular pieces. Some were available, some were not. Then he bought them online.
Mm,
So there was so much going on in this project of learning, but he was interested.
right.
He was
Yes.
writing, he was reading, he was counting, he was researching, he was communicating. So
Mhm.
within this one interest, we had so much learning, rich learning. And
Right.
that was a unit study.
Mhm. That is so
And
awesome. Yeah. That's interesting that yeah, and so starting at age 2 through 10, and so how long did this is he still kind of in that realm of tech and liking
oh
all
yeah,
things tech? Yeah.
yeah,
It's
everything
amazing
tech.
how yeah, and if you had taken away that vacuum cleaner, you know, at that young age and say, "Oh, this is what you're supposed to be doing," um, what it had grown into would have been stifled.
Yeah.
And so, yes, that mom instinct.
I think as mothers, we just know, don't we? And
Yeah.
it's funny you're saying that, because if I had taken the vacuum cleaner away or the vacuum cleaners away, we wouldn't have had this story. We wouldn't have had him doing what he loves doing. And
Hmm.
I wouldn't be able to sit here and share my experience and really advocate for it, because I often hear parents say, well, my child doesn't like anything. He's not into anything, or she's not into anything. And I said, give it time. They will. And if they're
Right.
not, give them opportunities.
Right.
If you give them
Exactly.
opportunities
Yeah.
and they'll
Hmm.
see what they like, you can then enhance that learning. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what we did. And now, honestly, Peggy, since that time, he did build that PC. So he built the
Mhm.
PC,
Cool.
he put it all together, he pressed that power button,
Mhm.
and that moment of joy, he just turned 12, and he had created something that he was so passionate about.
Yeah,
And
that's really neat.
it's
Mhm.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my middle child did something similar when he was 15. He decided he wanted to build a PC, and his math component was to build a program that tracked on different websites the prices of all the parts that he needed, so that when it hit the
Mm.
low, he was notified and then he could buy it. I was like,
Wow,
"That's
how
ingenious."
smart. That's
That's
amazing,
better math than
actually.
I could provide for you, because that, I mean,
Yeah.
that's applicable math to things
Yeah.
that people are looking for in today's market for jobs. And yes, he may never have done algebra, but that's way above and beyond. So
Yeah.
I think it's that different perspective that we have to take, whether they're playing with a vacuum cleaner or toy, they're building a computer, or, doing things around that supplement that learning. It's learning.
It's
And we have to
learning.
be joyful about that. And instead
Yeah.
of saying, oh, it's not the right learning, or it's not fitting into this category or the box that learning's supposed to fit into.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's
Exactly. It's
just,
a right learning for them, and they're growing and they're developing and they're happy, and that's what really matters, doesn't it?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, taking away that panic of I'm not teaching them everything they need to
Yeah.
know.
But I
So
mean
yes.
that's so easily done though. I mean that's
Hmm.
such a I mean I did that. I was guilty of it. I homeschooled. I'm still homeschooling, but in the beginning, in the early years of
Hmm.
homeschooling, I was always comparing my learning or my teaching, I guess, to my children. I would think, the school has certain amount of hours a day. My kids are not doing that many hours, or
Right.
they even done everything that a typical school day would cover. So I was forever comparing.
Right.
And that was my
Hmm.
biggest struggle. So I don't know, what about you? I mean, were you doing the same thing as
Yeah, I
Mhm.
actually avoided homeschool conferences because I just cried when I went to them because everybody
Yeah.
was, saying how my child could read by this age and go to college by the, time they're 5. I don't know, I'm exaggerating, but I kind of felt that way as,
Yeah.
my child is now 10 and still not reading. So or going to, how to homeschool your child through high school and then do, this many years of this subject and this subject. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
This isn't working either. And so it just seems like yeah, you just have to be able to say, you know what, this is my child, this is their path. And it's not going to look like everybody else's, and that's really okay. um, because I mean, they lose their self-confidence. I mean, and that's something you can't gain back as much as them
No,
learning how to read, how to write. All those things come with
absolutely.
time when they're supposed to. But yeah,
Absolutely. I agree. I agree.
there's
I mean, no learner is linear anyway. And then we have a
yeah.
neurodivergent child who's going to be everywhere on this map. And then if you put them in a
Mhm.
system and they put them in that grade level where they may not be able to deliver their work, that just hinders their confidence.
Right.
And that you're right. I think it's so important for them to be happy during the learning process,
Mhm.
rather than ticking the boxes of what they're learning.
Yeah, absolutely. So your background in coaching and then home educating, how has that melded and you felt like it really has supported how you have actually taught within your home versus like a typical educator?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question, Peggy. That's amazing. I mean, for me, coaching it's pretty recent. So I've only been in the coaching
Mhm.
realm, I guess, 4 years now. Prior to that, I was a homemaker, home educator,
Mhm.
and my world just revolved around my kids. Um,
Yeah.
my approach, I guess, to teaching them was different. Initially, when I
Mm.
started, it was a panic, right? I'd compare.
Yeah.
And then if you're not comparing it to the school, you're comparing it to another homeschooling family
Right. Exactly.
or another
Which makes you
homeschooling mum,
panic. Yes.
which is really panic, right? You panic every time.
Right.
And then I think throughout the years, it was like, okay, I need to follow a curriculum. I'll do this and I'll do that. And I mean, I
Hmm.
wasn't ticking boxes in comparison to the pressure that a school may have, for example, but it was
Right.
more my own. I created self-induced
Yeah,
stress and pressure
exactly.
for myself.
Mhm. And we
So I
do a
could
good job
really
of that.
tick that. We do all the time, and
Yes.
stress about activities, stressing about learning, right, forever.
Mhm.
And I think when coaching kicked in, it gave me this realization that I can take a step back and
Uh,
allow my children to take over.
mhm.
And it was through asking them questions. Well, what do you want to learn?
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
what do you want to
Absolutely.
do? What makes you happy? Rather than
Right.
me saying, okay, let's read 10 books this year in our homeschooling year. Let's
Mhm.
complete this task or let's complete this particular subject. It was like, what do you
Mhm.
want to do?
Right.
How can we create the learning for 2024 to 2025? What can we do this year?
Mhm.
And sit with them and ask those questions and engage with them and
Right.
get that feel of, okay, this is going to be rich learning. This is going to be true learning. They're going to enjoy
Mhm.
it. They're going to digest what they're learning this year. So that's, I think, my
Absolutely.
biggest kind of transformation with the coaching,
That's
um,
really good.
taking the
Yeah.
back seat.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, our kids have so many ideas and they're wonderful, and to be able to explore them and to kind of get into their world, it is going to take you places. And like you said, they want to learn those things, and so they're going to be more passionate about getting up and getting started and exploring those things with you. And yeah, I I love that you talked about questions, because I interviewed a couple, and it just kind of transformed my view of education, when they said this. They said the first major decision we offer kids is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And
Mm,
we ask them that at the end of their high school years. And they said, what a detriment we have done throughout our education system, of telling kids what they have to do every year, and then leaving the biggest decision of what direction their life's going to take at the end of that, when we've
oh,
given
yeah.
them no decisions to make along the way. And I thought, oh my goodness, that is so true. We
Yeah.
need to be asking those questions. We need our kids to be making small decisions that,
Yeah.
kind of lead their life, versus asking them those big questions when they have no idea
Yeah.
what to choose anymore.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think that's so important, giving them the autonomy to decide,
Mm.
and make those small, like you said, decisions, because that's their educational journey. And surely they
Yes.
should have some control over it. If they have that cognitive ability and the understanding,
Mhm.
surely they should be part of it. It shouldn't just be dictated by us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think they feel like that ownership, it gives them something more than just, well, I'm just doing this for somebody else. I'm doing it for me.
Yeah.
And this is it's yeah, it changes the whole dynamic of that. And also, you don't become enemy number one.
Yeah.
I
Oh
love
God.
this about
We
my
are, we
approach
are
to
anyway in the
parenting.
house, aren't we?
I Exactly. Um, I had
Yeah.
read a book years ago that talked about getting out of the boxing ring with your children and becoming their coach instead, and facing them towards their opponent, which is, whatever they're struggling against. But we are so comfortable in their lives, they often will attack us because we're the
Yeah.
comfortable one. And helping them to turn and say, I'm going to be your advocate. I'm going to be your helper. I'm back here behind you. We're going to face this together. um, and that has helped. Just that picture has helped me a lot too. Yeah. So, what
Yeah.
advice would you give
Absolutely. I mean,
parents who are
I feel
considering?
like, sorry.
Oh, yeah. No, go ahead. I'll let you finish. I think we have a little bit of a lag time.
No,
So,
no, please. No, I'm just saying, yeah, we do have a little bit of lag, but I just feel like we should be the facilitators, right? And that's it. That's the
mhm,
main thing. Being their facilitator and just taking that back seat and just seeing how they develop, which is so important.
yeah, absolutely. So I would love to know your advice. There's a lot of parents who are opting out of the traditional education system. What advice do you have for them if they're considering making that change and they have a child who has unique learning abilities, um, and they aren't quite sure even where to start.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I guess when in the situation, it's tricky because a lot of parents feel that schooling is the only way. But sometimes
Mm,
if we can see it this way, where not every child is fit for the schooling system, or not the
right,
schooling system may not work with that child. So they're unique, right? They have the unique learning abilities and their unique challenges, I guess. And if we look at it in that way, and we see that there's an alternative to the brick and mortar, then it becomes
right.
easier.
Mm,
It becomes easier because we will feel better as parents, and we'll know how we can support them. And nowadays, anyway, I mean, back in the days when we started our journey, there wasn't much out there in terms of support.
right.
Now we have,
Mhm,
homeschooling communities, co-ops, international groups, national
right.
groups, you name it. So there's a lot more, and people are
Mhm,
hiring tutors. People can go online and do learning. So there's so many different options that parents will have to choose from, that it's not as scary or as daunting
yeah.
anymore. And
Mhm,
if the system doesn't work for the child, it's okay. We can look at alternative ways to teach. And like you mentioned, do they need to know everything in maths? Functional maths is really more than enough, if
yeah.
that's what they need. If it's functional literacy, if that works for them, that works for them. Do we have to teach them everything that the school will be teaching them? Is it even necessary?
Right.
I don't think it is personally. We go
No. Mhm,
for functional learning, we go for the life skills, we look at executive functioning at home, planning,
right.
emotional regulation. These things for me are really important.
Mhm,
And that's what we want to kind of pass down to our own children. So I
yeah.
feel it shouldn't be so overwhelming if we look at it in that way.
Yeah, yeah, I agree too. It's and I love how you said that is that it's an alternative. I
Mm,
don't I think we think it's an opt out, or we this failed, so this is what's left. But
mm,
it's not. It's a very viable alternative is homeschooling.
mm.
And I sit in the world where I actually teach public schoolers and I teach homeschoolers. And I was telling I had a 16-year-old drop into my studio this week, and I said the homeschoolers learn faster than my public school kids. They're used to moving around, they have better cross body skills, they just pick up on things faster. So I have to be ready as a teacher to teach them quicker than my lesson plan. I actually move into other lesson plans with them. Um, and so I'm seeing the fruit of these parents, in their work, and I'm seeing it as a better alternative as an educator, from that point of view. And some of these kids do have diagnoses, but they're still learning
Yeah,
faster than their
yeah,
public school counterparts, because they're given these other ways to learn, and they're integrating them into how they perceive the world, how they engage in the world, how they learn new material, and how they integrate it with what they already know. And so it's not the second best option, as a lot of people think, is that traditional schooling is the top of the line. I'm actually seeing it as the opposite, but it is. It's an alternative, and um, I just wish we had more data to say, how
yeah,
well
I
it
know.
works for our neurodivergent learners, because the data is not out there, but we have so many parents that have, over the years seen so much success, and so it's
Yeah.
it's coming. I know it's coming,
Yeah, it'll
but it
come. It
takes
will
a while.
definitely will come. And I think going with the stories, the experiences, speaking to
Mhm.
neurodivergent individuals who have now passed that stage and graduated. And I think that's
Right.
reassuring to listen to their stories,
Mhm.
because
Yes.
we need to hear that more. But for new
Yeah.
parents who are entering the homeschooling, um, for parents who have just recently had their children diagnosed, for example, or have just
Yeah.
realized or figured out that there might be something, they need that reassurance. And I think we're at that point now where we can talk about it, or go to
Yes.
other
Mhm.
homeschooling, graduates who are
Mhm.
neurodivergent, and they can share their experiences. So it's
Yeah.
happening, but yeah, we don't have enough data. You're right, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So you pointed also on life skills and social skills and the kind of the development of the non-academic things, as we want to call
Mm.
them. Can you elaborate just how you have balanced that through homeschooling with, just more academic type learning?
Yeah. I'm going to say the answer to that would be it's just very organic. I
Hmm.
haven't kind of set up like a time or day to teach life skills. We just incorporate in our day to day.
Yeah.
So, for example, my eldest is 14. I mean, all of them have chores. Every day in the morning they have three chores each. And they like to save one chore for the evening for some reason. And I'm not sure why they do that, but they have two chores in the morning, and then they'll keep the last one for the evening. In
Yeah.
between that, they'll have something else to do, but they think that it's three only in the day. Anyway, so they have the
Uh-huh.
three chores, and then they have they have the life skills. So the life skills I would say would be, if it's cooking, I mean, cleaning and organizing comes into place anyway, but then my
Right.
eldest especially, he loves to be in the kitchen. So we don't make
Hmm.
it a separate subject.
Yeah.
Breakfast will be together. They'll go into the kitchen, make their own breakfast. Yesterday he had this urge to make a dessert. It was
Ah.
pretty late and he said, yeah, he's like, I want to make a dessert. And he wanted to make the protein bars. And he went
Hmm.
alone. I was in a meeting and I said, well, you can wait for me. He said, no, I don't want to wait for you. I'm going to go make them. So in the back of my mind, I'm panicking about this kitchen being a mess when I walk in. But he
Hunger leads
actually
to a
did
lot
an
of good life
amazing,
skills,
he did an amazing job,
especially
Peggy.
for
He
boys.
me- exactly, exactly. He measured all the ingredients. He put everything together. He put it all in the fridge, ready for breakfast. So his dessert was for breakfast.
Uh-huh.
And he cleaned up. Everything was cleaned up. Like the dishes were done.
Ah,
Everything was put. Not the dishes, the dinner dishes. The dishes that he used were done and
right.
put
Uh-huh.
away.
Of course.
But that was enough for him.
Right.
That was enough for him. But he managed. And so it's just incorporating the life skills into our kind of day to day, not planning
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
scheduling. It's like, okay, we're having breakfast. Okay, let's go do it together. So he's observing, he's watching, and now picking up. So he'll make his own smoothies, he'll make his breakfast, he'll make his younger siblings breakfast. So there's a lot that he's picking up naturally around his environment.
Right.
Putting the trash out, for example, bringing the milk in the morning. There's so much that he's doing without me reminding him or prompting him now because it's part of his learning, a part of the day, part of the rhythm of the day that we're not teaching, in a sense, sitting down teaching, which has been
Right.
wonderful. So all very, very organic.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we forget how much learning is around us in our homes because we think that they need to come from a book. And so that is
Yeah.
really a good reminder that, yeah, whatever we do is a teaching opportunity for our children. And there's so much everyday life happening in our everyday life. We
Yeah.
just have to
Yeah.
see it
Yeah.
as a
Absolutely.
learning teaching opportunity versus, oh, I'll get around to that, after the kids are, doing something else, but integrate them into that. I'm
Integrate it.
right. Yeah. Unfortunately, I fell on the other side of that so many times, and I look back now going, why? Why did I just, wait until they were put away doing something else to get stuff done? I should have done that more, but oh well. That's the way it is. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, your kids are with you. Let them take part in what is happening in your family life and make sure that
Yeah.
they have ownership of that too.
Yeah.
Very
Absolutely. They should be able to see what we're doing on a daily basis. They should see that we're cooking, we're cleaning. So let them observe, let them watch, and just
Mhm.
be part of it. I think initially it was like,
Right,
okay, I'll cook in the morning when they're doing something else. I'm like, no, we can just put it together, and it works.
right.
Um, and I get little helping hands as well, which is brilliant. So it works
Uh-huh.
for both of us. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like you're wasting time, but in the long run, really you're not, because those
Yeah,
helping hands turn into bigger hands, and, yeah, it's it definitely does pay off, um,
it
in the
does.
long run. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Yes. So, we, let me see. I'm forgetting where I'm at. Okay. Um, so going back to your example with building the PC, I think a lot of parents may have issues in trying to figure out, how do I make a certain passion a learning, um, you know, activity? Because it may seem very vague. Is there any advice you have for them on maybe how to break down an interest into how do we make school around this?
Yeah, yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, I love that question. I think it's so important to just understand what they're interested in.
Hmm.
And if they're not, and if they don't have a particular interest, maybe you can introduce a topic, and
Ah,
incorporate
yes.
rich learning experiences. It doesn't have to be, book learning or sitting at the
Yeah.
desk and doing your work. It could be,
Hmm.
going outdoors. It could be,
Right.
a trip to the museum or something, which they're going to
Mhm.
be, I guess they're going to really take in everything through their senses. And
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
that, you'll tell if they're enjoying it. You can tell, you can
Right.
really tell if they're enjoying it. My third, who's 8, he absolutely tries to avoid handwriting practice. He'll do anything to avoid it. But then I've put it in a way, I add more writing into his science. So he likes science. So I've added more into
Ah.
his science and he gets more writing
Mhm.
done. So today he was doing a project on do cats eat chocolate?
Oh.
And it was a fun activity.
Mhm.
And he's doing
Right.
some research and he needs to call friends who have cats to find out if their cats eat chocolate. But he's getting
Ah,
writing done now because he's researching
right.
and he's not
Ah.
realizing that he's writing.
Right. Yep.
So
Don't let them listen to the episode.
be
So
exactly, be a little sneaky is my advice.
right.
Be a little
Yes.
sneaky and you get a lot of learning done.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and
We're
I
all
think you're right
creative.
too. Yes, absolutely. That's how I got my
Mm,
daughter to write. She loved doing art. So we if she could write about something that she had drawn a picture about, um, then she was happy to do that, to describe,
yeah.
all the thoughts that were going through her head about putting that together and yeah, where she got the idea. Um, so because we all want to talk about ourselves and our interests,
Yeah.
and so getting that self-expression out in ways that are beyond just talking but are like academic skills, build
Yeah.
those skills without your kids really knowing that that's what's going
Yeah.
on. And
Yeah.
I
A
love that
lot's
you
going
talked
on.
about, yes, I love that you talked about in rich environments, because you're
Yeah.
right. There are some kids that don't know what they're interested in. But when you put them in environments that have them asking questions, you grow kind of go out of their main element. So it makes them more curious. Or it
Yeah.
opens their world to things that they've never experienced before that start them asking questions. And that's really important too, because our kids can get, especially the kids, like if you have a child on the spectrum, they tend to want to stay kind of isolated, and to sort
Yeah.
of find those opportunities where they feel like they are safe and they can explore, and they don't feel like they're it's it's not it's not a social situation or something that is intimidating to them. So
Exactly.
what types of environments have you found, like museums and things like that, or have really worked for your own family to kind of get your kids outside the box and thinking?
Well, I have boys, so for them,
Yeah.
honestly, they love going to everything tech shops, anything to do
Uh,
with, I get so tired of when we go out to the mall. Like, today, can we just do my shopping? Can it be about me?
right.
But they're learning so much when they're going into a shop. They're picking up,
Mhm.
new vocabulary. They're looking at new items, they're researching, they come home and talk about it. I mean, their topics are very tech related and tech based, but when they
Yeah.
get out, they get a lot of learning within that subject. They
Yeah.
can come back and discuss it with us. They can come back and share what they've learned. They can talk about the new products that are out in the market. So they kind of in touch with everything in that sense.
Right.
But what I
Mhm.
do is because they are so tech based and so in love with tech, I've
Mhm.
incorporated, there's a few times a day where you can talk about it. So, for example, my eldest, he likes to talk about the whole day. So we've
Right.
introduced 5 times you can talk about this in a day, because we need to
Okay.
expand our knowledge. We need to
That's
expand
good.
our conversational skills. So yeah, we call it the
Right.
peg system. And we have this
Yeah.
system where he will have a peg and he just changes it over to the other side when he's done. And he
Oh,
can
okay.
see visually that he can see visually that he's done it
Right.
5 times. And then he
Uh-huh.
stops. And then it's like,
Mm.
okay, I have to talk about something else. And then he'll pick up a book, read a book, or learn something new that he can share, and that kind of expands his conversational skills as well. So
Yes.
we try to kind of make it an all round experience,
Mhm.
um, because we do see a lot of neurodivergent individuals, which is fine. That's what they like. They like talking about the same topics sometimes of
Mhm.
interest, which is brilliant.
Right.
But we are, living in a world where they'll be going to school or they'll be going to work, they'll be interacting with
Mhm.
other individuals. So that's why I've brought this into place at home, and it's working.
Good. Yeah, I've never heard of that before, but that does make a lot of sense, and it's a good visual too. That
Mm.
and it gives them the freedom as well to speak about it when the topic is to the point where they're bubbling over and they've got to release it,
Yeah,
um, and so but they have to choose wisely too,
yeah,
and so all of that comes into play, and it's helping them to understand as well that other people have boundaries. So there's so many things involved
yes,
with that, just by moving a peg over that they're learning
yeah,
without you having to set, all those, maybe you set the unique goals and, but
yeah.
all that's happening underneath. Is there any other things that you do that have been helpful in just coaching your kids to more independence and helping them to self-regulate, with not only behaviors but also just in directing their own interest to like self-learn things like that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's a brilliant question. So I obviously I homeschool and I work, and I often hear
Mhm.
people saying, "Oh, well, you're a superwoman. You work and you have children and you homeschool and you do this and you do that." And I said, "No, I'm not a superwoman. I'm just managing my time well." So
Yeah.
I'm into a lot of I would say productivity is my thing. I love talking about it. I love putting it into
Mm.
practice. I love being organized. Everyone likes to have a list of things to do, and every time I tick off the list, it's just like so. It's inner joy. I can't explain that feeling.
Yep.
So
I'm the
they've
same
seen
way.
me do that. They've seen me, yeah, ticking off a list on. It has to be a paper list. It has to be so you
Oh,
can see it and you
yeah,
can tick
not
it,
on my phone.
feel
No.
it.
Yes.
There's such a difference between an app and paper
Yeah.
or a
Yeah.
diary. Oh, it's
Mhm.
amazing. So yeah, I mean, I do that. So I've been doing that for years, and they've been watching me. And you know,
Mhm.
I would say especially my eldest. I mean, they're all doing it, but my eldest, who is on the autism spectrum, like if you introduce some concept to him, he will stick to it. So he's
Mm.
really following a system. He has apps like Notion and Obsidian. I mean, there's so many different things that he talks about on his laptop, and he puts down reminders. He'll plan
Mm.
his day according to what he needs to study, and this has just been he's been building on it. So again,
Yeah.
he's managing his own schedule now, where he wants to
Mm.
learn. And this is a child that would literally, in the beginning of homeschooling, he would sit on the chair for 30 seconds. This is when I started homeschooling. When I pulled him out of school, he was around 6.5, and he would last 30 seconds on a chair.
Wow.
He wouldn't go beyond 30 seconds. And then we built it over the years, and now he
Yeah.
he manages his own schedule. I don't tell him when he needs to take a break.
Mm.
I don't tell him when he needs to go do his work. He knows Monday to Friday school, Saturday, Sundays
Yeah.
off, and he'll plan his day accordingly. And then
Mm.
he has we call them thinking breaks. So he likes to process what he's learned, and that means walking,
Ah, yeah.
pacing and processing.
Mhm.
And there were times where he would go off into a room and be there for 30 minutes because he hadn't realized that he was there for so long. So I bought him a sun timer, which is visual, and it was set to 8
Oh,
minutes.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, he would just turn it, and then he would do his walk and think and
Uh-huh.
process and come back.
Hmm.
And now I don't even tell him, he'll go and do it, and
Oh,
turn it. He'll turn the sun timer and do his thing, and then come and do
yeah.
his work.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it's been amazing. It's just practice, practice, and it's just been so
Right.
good for
Yeah.
him
Mm-hmm.
that he's now himself a productivity guru. You know?
He can teach others. So yes,
Yeah,
that's amazing. And yeah, I think we get frustrated when things don't come right away. But with our kids,
yeah,
it's a long game. It's not a short game.
yeah,
Those things do happen, and like you said, they tend to stick better than with most normal kids because
yes,
they are regimented, and they want a schedule. They want
yes,
that um, it's just reassuring to know that you can there things are going
yeah,
to happen in a certain way, and then giving them the
yeah,
freedom to reorder them as they feel
yeah.
comfortable and get things done. And have you found, I know I found this with my kids, that when I gave them control over their own schedules, things got done quicker.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, this is happening now. The eldest is 14 and the second is 12. So it's happening
Mhm,
now. Like you said, it's a long process, it's a long journey. And yeah, you're
mm,
right. Now that I have, they have their own schedules and they're managing their own schedules in the day, independently, it's brilliant, but it does take practice and it does take time, and it's taken years, to get to where we
yeah.
are. So I don't want,
Mhm,
parents to think that it just happens overnight, because it doesn't.
right.
For us to
Yeah.
be where we are now, it's been work. It's been a lot of
Mhm,
work. We started with visuals around the house. I used to block book their day. So everything was done
yeah.
in blocks, because neurodivergent kids love, majority of the kids love a schedule. They love a rhythm in their day. They like things that
Mhm,
they expect. They know what's going to be going on, so they feel more relaxed. So we used to use a lot of visual reminders, a lot of pecks around the house, and that's practice. So over time, we've now shown
right.
them that we're following a schedule. We have a routine. We do have, I don't call it a strict routine. I call it more of a rhythm, because sometimes things happen. You might have one child sick, or you might have, God forbid, an emergency. In those
Exactly.
situations, you have to step away. And then
Uh-huh,
neurodivergent
which is
children
you.
really struggle, because, yeah, they
Yeah.
struggle because
Mhm,
there's something that's not right in their day. So we had to
yeah.
show and introduce flexibility. Um, but
Mhm,
it's been a long process. It's been years and years and years and years of hard work to now say,
mhm,
okay, guys, here's your schedule. You can follow
yeah.
it. I mean, there's days where they might slip, but then again, I'm that
Mhm,
facilitator. I'm like, okay, please,
right.
go back and you can
Exactly.
do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm, yeah. So I'd like to talk a little bit about advocacy. We advocate a lot for our kids when they're younger, and it's that transitioning of them being able to advocate for themselves. And how do you go about approaching that as a parent? And then also, you work with other parents who are, trying to deal with things with their own kids, and what do you tell those parents as they're trying to get the best for their kids, but also to teach their kids how to reach out and ask for what they need too.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I guess, a process. I think when we start the journey, or whenever our kids are younger, we're in it as their advocate,
Mhm.
with their voice.
Right.
Oftentimes what happens, we're so emotionally attached that we
Mm.
forget to advocate, because we're so emotionally attached. We just go in, for example, if it's a school situation, and certain accommodations are not being placed for the child, we go in as that parent, really shouting, right?
Fighting.
Because
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
just so,
fist up.
yeah, fighting.
We're
Yeah,
ready to
absolutely.
go.
When when my kids were in school, I remember remember one of the teachers hiding away from me when I walked in because I would go in like ready to fight because of certain
Mm,
accommodations were not being placed for him, and like a simple thing, a break. I needed he
yeah.
needed a break in 40 minutes, and that wasn't being
Mm,
given, so I was ready to fight the whole school. And then I realized, well, no, actually, by shouting and screaming, we're not going to get anywhere. Yes, I'm upset. I love my child. I want the best for him, but we need to
yeah.
advocate for our child. We need to learn to use that voice, so we
Hmm.
could be heard. And that's where I kind of tweaked tweaked my approach and started
Right.
advocating for him, and that helped. That really helped, and that's where I've been with parents. I'll remind them during our workshops or sessions that we have. We need to be their voice. We need to represent them. If there's
Yeah.
anything, we are emotionally attached, but we need to step away from that, which is not easy.
It
But we need to
isn't.
step
No.
away. It's it's so difficult, so difficult.
Hmm.
But let's be that person where we can go in and talk, and advocate for their rights that will be then met, hopefully.
Yeah.
And that's how we do it as parents, and that's how I work with parents and support them. But
Mm-hmm.
then it comes on to the self advocacy, which is so important.
Yeah.
We we're not going to be around forever, and we know that.
Right.
Um, it's really trying to like teach them self advocacy skills, being confident in who they are, really understanding what
Mm-hmm.
their needs are. How can they voice
Yes.
those needs? That's
Right.
really important. So it's a work in progress at home. We're doing that.
Yeah.
We talk about it a lot. We'll
Hmm.
say, look, if you're in this situation or this scenario, what would you do? And it often is,
Right.
role play. It could
Yeah.
be
Absolutely.
conversations. Yeah. So we do a lot of
Hmm.
that, or some watching something on YouTube, where
Mm.
he will see, okay, this person's going through this, and this is how he's, kind of supporting himself, using his own voice. So
Right.
we do that, and then we actually have a program for teens
Mm.
that incorporates self-advocacy,
Yeah.
self-regulation, self-advocacy, and again through a lot of role plays,
Mm.
discussions, conversations with their peers,
Mhm.
where they can talk
Right.
about how they can, support their own themselves in a situation which may be, a challenging situation for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I think, yeah, that it's not like you can give them answers and they can just reverberate them, because
No.
every situation is so
No.
unique and their needs in those situations are unique. So they need to go through those scenarios and to kind of think through how they would respond and what really are my
Yeah.
needs, and um and do I really need that or not, and kind of fumble through some of that. My kids, now that they're all adults, I've kind of lived this on that side longer, and I found my oldest
Mm.
decided not to get re-diagnosed when he went to college, and that was his own choice. He often would text me and say, "This is what's going on," and sometimes he just needed a sounding board to like throw things
Yeah.
at, me, and then go,
Mm.
"Okay, I can take it from here." But always knowing
Mm.
that somebody was available to just chat,
Mm.
and your homeschooling doesn't end when your kids graduate. Sorry to let you know that it continues on. You're a parent. Um,
Yeah.
and my daughter really dove in. My daughter has a lot of physical disabilities, and so the second she got accepted to her new college, she's in the disability services office. She's saying, "What can you give me?"
Mm.
And she was really on top of it. She goes to a lot of disability, like, not conferences, but like shows where they have like new things that help people with various um, disability, like devices and tech, and
Mm.
it's
Mm.
it's really cool, kind of the melds of her world. Even
Mm.
like clothing, but she's so into all of that, and she keeps up with it, and so she knows what's available, and takes what she needs to move forward. So
Yeah.
so yeah, you just
Yeah.
don't know how your kids are going to do that, but they seem to find their voice, and when they do, then they're able to let other people know what they need, and that's what's most important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think we can just do what we can do as parents, right? We can support them,
Yep.
encourage them, guide them,
Mhm.
teach them, and hopefully one
Yeah.
day when they are living independently, like your daughter now and your son, they have their
Mhm.
own ways, but whatever way they choose, it's
Right.
okay for them. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about your coaching business and just how you work with various people in different realms, and maybe even a little story on how that all came together too.
It's interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of things happened during COVID. You hear stories about
Yeah.
COVID. In my
Uh-huh.
situation, I was a homemaker for 10, 11 years, homeschooling, and I realized, well, I want something for myself. And what is that?
Mm,
I wanted to go back to work. I really did want to go back to work, but my job was heavy, full time. I'm a
yeah.
lawyer professionally, and it wasn't going to, it wasn't going to be an easy route. So I
Yeah.
decided, okay, I want to stay at home. That's what I want. So I need to do something from home.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and coaching came up, and that's when I decided, okay,
Mm,
coaching could be a good balance, you know, a
yeah.
work-life balance, so they call it. And I went into my studies just during COVID, took some courses, completed my credentials, got my license, and started my
Mm,
coaching journey. And then, when you go into coaching, they always say, well, what niche would you like to go into? And
mm,
mine was nothing but, I only knew autism. I talked about
yeah.
autism all day long. That's all I knew, throughout the time I had my eldest. So it was a no-brainer, and I went
Yeah.
into neurodiversity. And then, I mean, it started with homeschooling support. It started with
Mm,
helping and supporting families, and coaching and mentoring them,
yeah.
who had really struggled with the system, who had been in the system for many years, and they felt their children were just not, learning.
Right.
So we'd
Mhm.
create plans, we'd create, I'd be sharing strategies and tools and how to bring in the learning for their children. And that's how it
Right.
started. It started with
Mm,
one client to a two, then to
yeah.
three, and then I realized, well, actually, no, this isn't a when we're talking about neurodiversity, it's not only at home, it's not only at school, it's beyond, because an autistic
Yeah.
individual is going to still continue being an autistic adult. So
Mhm.
it's not really going to stay at home. It's going to go
Right.
beyond into society.
Mm,
Um,
mhm.
and then, yeah, just I wanted to do more. It was just
Mm,
it was a lot, and I wanted to offer more to the community.
right.
Um, and yeah, from workshops to working with parents who homeschool, it went to
Mm,
creating training material, training resources, and developing training courses and programs for educators, for
mm,
corporates on neuroinclusion, neurodiversity, looking at
yeah.
inclusive workplaces, inclusive work practices. It just kind of went, yeah, it kind of just grew, and here we are now. We're
Yeah.
CPD providers, and we deliver training, and it's just been amazing. It's been a really fun journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really neat. Yeah, so much good has come
Thank
out of
you.
COVID. I hate to say that because many people had a hard time through that,
Yeah.
but in the
Yeah.
education realm, things
Yeah.
changed in a very good way, um, because we were forced
Yeah.
to rethink how we approach education, and
Yeah.
when the status quo is kind of upset, it you you have to go, why, and is this the best way,
Yeah.
and I'm so excited with all that has come about that. And yeah, so your website is Coaching with Uzma. It's so
Yes. Correct.
we'll share that link in our show notes, as well as on YouTube and things like that. So you'll be able
Thank
to
you.
just click on that as well. And what can people find as far as like on your site if they go there?
I mean, we have blogs, we have our training courses, information. We have so I do live talks as well on YouTube, so you can have a look at those. Um, a lot of deep discussion on various topics. So you'll find a lot on the website. You'll find a lot on Instagram. I try to post informative, posts every now and then when I get a chance. And yeah, I just lots of different things that I'm working on will be shared on there. We have a Bridging the Gap initiative every few months, where we invite professionals, and we have a brilliant panel every time that can support not just the neurodivergent world. I call it the neurotypical neurodivergent, that come together So we have this platform where we want to invite everyone to talk about it comfortably and not just raise an awareness, but go beyond raising that awareness, because we're at that point now where we want to be living together in harmony, and we want to be able to
Yes,
understand that there are
absolutely.
differences in people's, thinking and processing the world, and that's okay. So we
Mhm.
have that coming up, and you're invited there as a speaker, and we're looking forward to you sharing your experience as well. So I
Yeah,
mean, we
I'm
have a
looking
lot
forward to
going
joining
on
you.
within Uzma Akser. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so
Mhm.
much. I mean, it's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just so many resources for families, and definitely encourage you to check out that website. And yeah, just thank you for being in the space, and for helping families. And yeah, the more people that are out there, I know it's parents are just scrambling for help,
Yeah.
and one coach is it really helps to have somebody who comes into your life and says, well, this is what I see, versus, because we get so
Yeah.
buried as parents in
Mm.
just our anxiety, expectations, and the comparison, like we were talking about at the very beginning, and it all just seems so overwhelming. But when you have somebody come in and say, well, this is what I see, and this is how I see a way out, it's like
Yeah.
you can just like drop everything that you've been holding on to so tightly and say, okay, let's move forward. And your kids need that, for you to do, not just you, but as a family, and to help them to be successful too. So yeah, so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I
Yeah.
think, if we see ourselves as the pillars, we have to be strong,
Hmm.
but we can't be strong alone. It
Yeah.
really takes that village. And I always say this, it takes a village to raise that one child, but it takes even a bigger village to raise a neurodivergent child. And if we're going to do it alone, we are going to be burnt out. We're
Yeah.
going to hit rock bottom. And it's
Mhm.
not going to benefit us, and it's not going to benefit
Right.
our children. So we have to be, I mean, it's not going to be picture perfect every day, but if we
Hmm.
can have that community that we can go to, if we can have some resources that we can look at, that's what really, if I can help that one family, I'm happy. When I was in my journey in the beginning, it was very isolating. I
Mm.
honestly thought I was the only one going through it until I met another
Mm.
mum. And I realized actually there's more families are going through this in the world,
Yes.
not only me. And
Uh-huh.
I was struggling for years. Honestly, mentally, I was
Mm.
struggling for years. Emotionally, I was struggling for years. But I would wake up in the morning and be ready to face the world and support my child. But by the evening, I was absolutely burnt out.
Oh yeah.
And it
Hmm.
was a different occurrence. And then now, even if I can help that one family and support that one family, that's my job done. Um,
Yeah.
that's it,
Hmm.
because it's we don't want to be left alone in this process. It's
Yeah.
not nice.
No.
It's not pleasant at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Yes. And we don't have to be. There's enough
We
people
don't
out there
have to.
that so yeah. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. It's been so pleasant, and so filled with encouragement. So I just want to thank you for your time, and for sharing with us today. Definitely empowering us to homeschool successfully. And you may have come into this conversation thinking you're going to get a bunch of tips and tricks, but I hope it has changed your mindset. I think really that's what our conversation today has been about, is how do I look at this learning differently, and how I can do it differently, and surround myself with people that are going to encourage me to think that way. That's really important. So thank you for taking us there. I appreciate your time, and just for this conversation. It was amazing.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me, Peggy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So this podcast will come out next week. And for those of you that were looking for the podcast that was supposed to come out in this place, just know that that one is going to be next. Building strong voices, speech strategies for social skills, self-regulation, and learning success had to be rescheduled. And so now it is going live next week, and the podcast will come out the following week. So stay tuned for that, and we'll make sure that we get into that speech therapy stuff too. And so we're gonna do that next week. But that's how things roll when you got lots of things going on. And so anyways, so thanks for your patience with us, and make sure to check out our website at spedhomeschool.com. We got lots of things going on over there. That is a new interactive platform. It's not just a website. You can go in, make an account, even a free account. You can ask people questions. You can post things. We have some parents posting stories of their homeschool journeys, and we want you to be part of that community. It is a safe place. It is not like Facebook that's going to use all your information. We do not, but we just want to form a very safe community for you to be able to have groups, to connect with other people, to find resources, and to get information that is really going to be helpful to your homeschool journey. So check us out at spedhomeschool.com, and then I will see you next time here on Empowering Homeschool Conversations. Bye, everybody, and take care, and God bless, and we'll see you next week.
This has been Empowering Homeschool Conversations, provided by SPED Homeschool, a nonprofit that empowers families to home educate diverse learners. To learn more, visit spedhomeschool.com